Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live BIM coordination webinar. We are starting in just a few moments, in just a few minutes. Thank you for your time. This time we are going to talk a bit about BIM data, how we actually validate BIM data, how we manage it on a BIM project, but not an average BIM project, but one of the biggest hospital projects in Norway, which was actually built without drawings. And I'm super excited to hear more about this project, more about how the BIM data was validated there. Of course, there is a big interest in this topic. I've seen from LinkedIn posts. So before we even start, as a tradition, just let me know in the comments if you can hear us well and see us well, if everything works as it should be. Okay. And today with me is my good friend of mine, Konrad Fugas. Great to have you with us, man. Thanks for accepting the invitation. How are
Hello,
you, man?
hello everyone. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me here.
Sure, of course. I'm checking that everything works good. Sound of nature. Yes, Victor says that everything works as it should be. Very good, very good. We are just starting in just a few moments, loud and clear. Very nice. Okay. So we are starting in just a few moments, but before we start, I was just curious and I want to ask our audience, what's your experience with like drawing class construction projects? Okay. I know that in many countries, BIM is still a novice thing. It's still in an early phase of implementation, but here suddenly Konrad is going to talk about construction without drawings. What the hell? So I want to know for how many of you worked on such projects. How many of you have some kind of experience in this regard? Just drop in the comments. It will be lovely to hear from you. And also another thing, just as a start, just before, okay, Dirk is saying that never. Thanks, Victor. Never in my case, never. So most probably you are in the same position as me. I never worked on such projects. Very good. So this session will be perfect for us. Okay, very good. I never heard about it before, Hamza. Okay. Good. So just before we begin, I see that a lot of people are novice in this regard. So this is great. This is our perfect audience, Konrad. I think you will crush it. Just before we begin, I have a small request to all of you guys. This event is live on 3 platforms on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So please leave us some likes, thumbs ups, comments, those type of things, because any kind of reactions will help us spread the knowledge into larger audience. Me and Konrad, we enjoy sharing our knowledge with others. For sure, positive reactions will help us reach bigger audience, and in the future help us organize more similar events. So thank you so much in advance for such support. So Konrad, let's begin. This is 2 p.m. Central European time. Welcome again. My name is Ignacy. I'm your host today. With me, Konrad Fugas, experienced BIM manager from Norconsult Digital. Today, we are going to talk about BIM drawing class projects. There is quite a lot to cover. So let's look at today's plan. So Konrad's presentation will last for about 50 minutes. Then we will have 15 to 25 minutes of Q&A session. Of course, it depends how many questions we will receive from the audience, from you guys. But basically, you ask on the chat, we answer. Write your questions anytime during the session. I will register them. Some of the questions maybe we'll answer during the during the session on the fly, but most of them we will leave at the end of the session. Also, keep in mind that only registered people, participants, will receive any additional materials that Konrad has prepared. And Konrad prepared for us a document, a tips and tricks document, how to validate data in Solibri. Thanks so much, Konrad, for creating it for us. So if you haven't registered, you just received an email, just please register to be on, go to becomeBIMcoordinator.com/webinar, and after the registration, I'm going to send all the gifts, also recording from the session tomorrow via mail. Okay, so this is the plan for today. I think everything is clear. So just a quick intro about myself. I know that some of you already know me, but if you never met me before, really nice to meet you guys. I'm Ignacy Łoziński. I'm a BIM practitioner. I have over 12 years of experience working in different roles as a BIM coordinator and manager. On a daily basis, I work on one of the biggest infrastructure projects in Norway, Oslo Metro Line, called Fornebubanen. I'm also creator of BIM Corner blog together with Konrad and also other 4 fellow friends. We created a place on internet called BIM Corner. It's a blog. Basically, we share what we know about BIM methodology. If you haven't heard about it, just go to BIMcorner.com. There are over 200 articles about various topics of BIM. So it's I think, from my perspective, it's a great free learning resource. What else? I also help AC professionals learn BIM coordination in depth through my learning program, Become BIM Coordinator. My goal is to teach as many individuals as possible, providing the most effective way to learn BIM coordination. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, so I post interesting stuff almost every day. So feel free to add me to your LinkedIn profile. I think gathering connections is the best way to spread the knowledge, and also to have a great networking possibilities. Konrad, that's enough about me, I think. So please, stage is yours. Just let us know about you, who you are, what you do, and after that we can start the presentation. Okay.
Yes. So as you already heard, my name is Konrad Fugas, and I wasn't always a digitalization freak. I come from a little town in southeastern Poland, and I chose to study civil engineering only because I didn't want to spend the full days in front of the computer. Very mature reasoning, you must agree. After studies, I worked as a quantity surveyor in a contractor company, and that was the time I started to feel some itching. I got frustrated that I had to manually draw the lines and make surveying out of the PDF, where the 3D models were available anyway. I knew that this method was a waste of time, but I didn't have the resources and knowledge where to look for the change. Everybody in the team was doing basically the same, telling me that this is just what it has to be for now. That's it. But one day, we had a Solibri training in our company, and I took part in it. It was this spark that put the fire into my itching. I finally realized that there is a better way of working. I began to swallow the Solibri knowledge and put it to use in my quantity surveying work. And shortly afterwards, I changed jobs and embraced BIM methodology. I never looked back and only scaled up on the size and technological advancements of the project I worked on. And another spark was having a beer and a pizza with 4 other guys in Oslo with similar international experience. And one of them was Ignacy hosting this event. We created BIM Corner. We are a blog where we cover a broad range of topics, but the goal is always the same: present to our readers practical knowledge which can be used on a daily basis. We started actually 5 years ago. That is a huge chunk of time, you must admit. And since then, we are consequently delivering one new article each week. This totals in 205 articles on our blog so far. I counted it.
It was quite a journey.
Yeah, it was. It was indeed. We created 4 different deliveries to download for free. And these encompass case studies, BIM salary reports, and different how-to guides. We have organized 3 conferences for our readers, and every week we send out a newsletter for our subscribers with tidbits from the AEC industry. And actually, the audience is still growing. We are read by 20 to 25,000 users per month. Over 500,000 users visited our blog in total from entire world. We have over 46,000 followers on LinkedIn and over 9,000 receivers of our newsletter. So that is a considerable audience. And we are happy that more and more people are reading, visiting our blog, and learning about BIM methodology.
Thank you so much, our audience, for being with us for such a long time.
Yes, thank you very much. And my focus area on that blog is about BIM data management and drawing-less design and construction. If you want to read my articles, just scan the QR code from the screen. But moving on to the project I'm working on. This hospital, New University Hospital in Stavanger, was up until recently the biggest on-land construction site in Norway. I say up until recently because now, shortly, there is even bigger building being built. And its design area is 125,000 square meters. And as the name suggests, it is located in Stavanger in Western Norway, the capital of oil industry. The budget is set to over $1 billion, and the project delivery method is construction management, where the building owner employs the team to manage the design process and trade contracts. There is over 150 persons engaged in the construction management team that manage over 140 different trade contracts. We had a peak for over 900 workers simultaneously on site, and the hospital is planned to be open within 2025. 125,000 square meters is a considerable number. To give you a better understanding how big it is, the hospital is the size of 3 times Opera in Sydney, or 3 times Copenhagen in Copenhagen, or it's twice as big as Buckingham Palace. The hospital is run under public law with public tenders. It is a construction management type of contract, as I mentioned. But I realized that it is actually not very common contract type in the rest of Europe. So I decided to quickly present you some of the assumptions because they are important to understand what the decisions are made afterwards. So the principal or the appointing party is a public institution called CEST, which means Western Norway Regional Health Authority, that employed a construction manager, Sykehusbygg, a Norwegian hospital construction agency, which is also a public institution. Sykehusbygg was involved since the dawn of the project and developed it together with architects from Nordic and engineers from Covey. And the main difference you might have noticed already from this graph is that there is a lack of general contractor. The coordination role is undertaken by the team of construction managers, and trade contracts were being signed one by one with different companies for a specific type of work. And I'm employed by the building owner, and my responsibility is to manage digital processes, validate the data and the models, and provide training for new contractors coming on site. I am testing new software and optimizing existing processes. Every part I will describe in this presentation, I had my hands in and often got pretty dirty. Before the start of the project, our client defined the core challenges that make hospital development too slow and too expensive. And one of the threats was too low level of digitalization. And the client made the requirement crystal clear in every contract signed for the new university hospital in Stavanger. There is this, it's written that the 3D model should replace working drawings in the design and construction phase. And our role, our construction management team role, was to enhance the project technology to meet that requirement, to allow for a model-based building. We created project goals and introduced solutions to meet them. First of all, eliminate creation of traditional drawings and create models that can be used directly as a construction documentation on site. So, of course, that means no paper drawings are produced, and digital drawings are limited only to those required by law or common sense. For example, detailed drawings or some connection drawings. Collaboration between stakeholders should be digitized regardless of the project phase and personal location. That means fully digitized document flow and limiting emails. We communicate only throughout our project management platform.
Are you going to reveal what kind of platform is it?
Yeah, it's BIMS. I will afterwards. I will show you the software flow in our project.
Cool.
And the next, each piece of information has to be maintained only in one place and managed effectively through digital collaboration. And this means we use external databases that stores combined models and objects data. And now you might think, why would I even care? Why is it required? What does it give me? You can say, I see only problems, like it changes the way workers used to work. Getting a physical drawing with a good bird's eye overview of the whole floor, this is what they need. Or you can say that it creates new processes and workflow that are demanding for newcomers. You can say that everyone has to learn new software and beginners make mistakes. It's more expensive to create such a detailed BIM model. It creates a lot of hassle for newcomers. And I can tell you something, you are right. You're all right, but how long does it take to build a hospital? Anybody guesses? You can write it on the chat.
Yeah, just drop in a chat but
like
of course it depends on how big hospital. We are talking about this hospital?
Yeah, like this size of hospital, 100 square meters hospital, more or less in years.
6, 7 years? I would guess 7 years. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. 5 to 8 years, depending on how complex it is and how big, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the lifespan of such hospital?
So Natalia, you guessed wrong. 15 years is too much.
Yeah, maybe with an early design, that would be 15 years with all the planning, like in total. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too long still. Mm-hmm. But what is the lifespan of a hospital? After we build it, how long do we manage it? like at least 50 years and way more, and with loads of reworks. And what do we need to manage the hospital? We need data. And how do we manage data in today's building? Like that? Like using stacks of papers in the 21st century? Well, good luck finding the warranty conditions for broken specs in the laboratory on a 5th floor, or whatever else that got broken or needs maintenance. So with the digitalization of the whole construction process, the principle aims to receive a better building with accessible and structured data, which turns into more efficient facility management. Our slogan is more hospital for the money. In short, we want to transform facility management from this and old, dusty, gloomy, and inefficient way of managing the buildings and its data to this one, a new generation of facility managers. The ultimate goal is streamlining FM. Instead of overflow of paper manuals and project descriptions, we aim to deliver a fully digitized asset information model, a BIM model with maintenance, operation, and management documentation connected to objects. So we think about the end, but to have a digitized end, you have to have the whole process has to be digitized. Mm-hmm. And so how does such a construction site look like?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we have site workers, as in every other construction site. We have cranes, we have concrete. So from this picture, you could say that it looks pretty much as any other construction site. And yeah, you're right. We are still building a building, so it looks pretty much the same. It has a little bit of differences, like the most visible are that nobody is holding paper drawings. There are beam stations and tablets pretty much everywhere around. But the most important thing is what is out of sight. The main difference between model-based construction and traditional projects is in the collaboration, processes, and data management. It is all digital. So let us take a closer look. What are the prerequisites for that difference? So nowadays, most of the project uses BIM models anyway. Designers create 3D models, but they stay in the offices. For construction site delivery, they create a 2D documentation with lines, hashes, and dimensions. On our construction site, we take the models outside the office. Designers create fewer or no drawings. Instead, they use save time to add more details and data to the model. On the drawing-based construction site, everybody works for themselves. If they are a little bit more technological advanced, they use DVG viewers on mobile devices. If not, they stick to paper. Whereas on our site, there is provided specific software. I will also come back, what is it? For viewing the documentation in 3D. Since all data is available in the cloud, it can be viewed on a construction site. Mm-hmm.
I'm not interrupting you, man, but of course, as you said, some of the tools you are going to reveal, you will also reveal some of the examples, so we can see in the real presentation, like in the real life example, how it interconnects and works, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will show you what I use and how I use the data validation. And I will show you the software flow with the example of software
we're using. Perfect. Great.
Just hold on. So Digital tools and workflows are the next big differences. We are not exchanging drawings via emails. Collaboration between every stakeholder takes place in a common platform like CDE. So all data lies in a common data environment from where everybody can download revisions themselves. And instead of printers on a model-based construction site, we can find BIM stations and workers using tablets to view the construction documentation. So in short, a model-based building site is fully digitalized construction where software takes place of drawings and offline processes are replaced by tools working in the cloud. The transformation from traditional drawing-based construction to innovative model-based comes with many changes to the project environment. And this doesn't only involve contractors. On the contrary, it affects every stakeholder. Beginning with data, and this is what's going to be the focus today on today's session. Designers have to model, calculate, and export a full set of properties, well structured and correct. And those properties and designers must follow a defined level and structure of information so that a worker on site knows which object corresponds to the physical equipment he's about to mount. Then are the processes of documentation delivery, storage, and revisions. All those processes must be digital, based on models and CDE. Those processes have to tie together what the designers create with what the contractor need, and it has to be in sync with the schedule. Technology, I will also talk about it afterwards. We wouldn't achieve model-based construction without the right tools. So choosing the correct software set, not one software, it is a daunting task. And no doubt, there's so many different softwares, you have to choose something. But the most important rule here is that no software works alone in today's world. They must talk to one another. And then another significant subject is organizing a construction site with no drawings. Beginning with appropriate contracts that make contractors aware of the necessity to use models, then providing staff training, afterwards necessary hardware on site, software, construction software on site. This all has to be accessible from mobile devices and easy to learn for an average construction worker. Data structure is crucial to allow building without drawings. If the contractor is to know what to mount on site using the model, it has to be correctly specified. On our project, we have strict requirements for how the properties are named, what structure they have, but still mistakes are made. All kinds of mistakes. Let's play some guess. How many different mistakes can somebody write in simple S1 code? You can write in.
Yeah, just post a comment. It will be really fun to read. I actually have two questions, but I will leave them for the end.
Yeah, write them down or.
Okay, Dr. Beam says it's four different variations of S1. Okay.
I found at least 8.
Okay.
And this is all incorrect data that can be written in a single property.
Okay. What's the correct data?
The first one.
The first one. Okay, gotcha. I thought that someone will write one with O-N-E.
Oh yeah, I haven't thought about it, but
Yeah,
actually it could be. So it's 9 or even more because it can
not
be big
just a
letters,
hat
small.
trick, you know.
Yeah, true. Uh, so now this is a simple example. So just think how many different errors can be written in more complicated classification code that we use for every component on site. For example, this one.
Mm.
And I swear this is a valid classification code from our project.
Mhm.
So as you can see here, structure coding can be a headache.
Mm.
But on our project, there is a consensus that the properties must be correct. So it's a little bit easier having this understanding to enforce the regime for and good routines.
Mhm.
I showed you before that slide. Do you remember the quote from Clive Humby? Well, I tricked you a little bit. This is what he meant actually. So he meant that data, just like oil, isn't useful in its raw state. It needs to be refined, processed, and turned into something useful. The value lies in its potential. So going digital, we can easily get overflooded with the amount of data. If you add over 150 designers and every one of them is creating data, it's really easy to get chaos.
I like the saying that you wrote in one of the one of the articles that no data is better than bad data. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't have data, you don't assume anything. But if you have bad
Exactly.
data and assume that is right, you can
Make the mistake.
make, yeah, and make much more harm to the project.
Mm.
So to avoid this, we create a long and boring table that describe the delivery on what we need in the project. It has the property name, how it should be written in the property set. It has what object type it relates to, description of what the goal for this property is, requirement, if this is a must or a can, data format, also very important, how you should write it, and example value, so that there is like no mistakes. And we describe each property we want on our construction site. And there is like 200 of those properties. But there are some that are especially important because they play a major role for management and during the construction process. And those are control areas, responsibility, and status codes. And we also had BIM Corner articles about those properties. Ignacio wrote some, I wrote some, and I will, but they are so important that I will go through them again today. Starting with control areas. This is a big project, and nobody can handle such immense and complicated project at once. There are 6 different buildings, and area is too complex to be referred to as a whole. So we think of building a hospital the same way as eating an elephant. You eat it piece by piece. So the same way here, we split the whole building into smaller pieces and arrange a working schedule focusing only on one control area at a time. To visualize the division into control areas, we created a relation schema for every control area in the building. So as you can see here in our project, we distinguish actually 4 types of control areas. The control areas for shell construction, because it comes first. Then for vertical elements, because they are completely different than the horizontal ones. And this is shafts and facades. And then for interior works, which are similar to shell construction, but it comes much later in the process. And you see here what's the difference in the coding. So in our project, one horizontal control area is about 1,000 square meters. And you can see on the slide an example of the division of one floor in the whole building. We split the control area by type, afterwards by building and by the floor. And this is how the code looks like. So we wanted to define it in a way that is both machine readable, database friendly, and human understandable. That's why we use always the same number of characters for each area, and we ensure numbering uniqueness. We've chosen this pattern. AA means a building number, BB is the story for horizontal control area, or 00 for vertical, and CC is a running number, and the running number depends on the type of the control area. And the idea behind that is that the main design effort moves from one area to the next. This facilitates management and allows design and execution work to be carried out simultaneously. Elements, that is the design tip. That what we do is that elements that transition from one area to another control area are cut by the border. This is, of course, an additional work by the designers, but it has advantages with that streamline the process later for contractor and quantity surveying and all. You will understand it probably also later.
Konrad, can I interrupt just for a second? I have just one question which come up quite often when it comes to control areas. Maybe I would love to hear what's the solution in this project, because often people ask us, okay, we have the control zones, so control areas that BIM coordinator is using for example, running the coordination, but how we control the objects that go through several control areas, several zones. It might be a long wall, it might be some vertical systems that go through several stories. How this problem was solved in the project?
Yeah, so I mentioned it at the end that we just cut the elements at the border.
Okay.
If this is a wall or a long pipe that goes throughout two horizontal control area, we cut it. The designers.
But how actually? So we have a long pipe. So how do you know where to cut? So I understand that there are some kind of boxes, zones.
Yeah. So there is created
define the border.
Yeah, there is created a kind of mass model with only boxes. So the hospital made out of boxes. Each box has the control area number, and then when we put together the boxes and the design, and you can cut it on the collision.
Okay.
Like for example, piping design are to combine together with those boxes. You know where it's the collision.
And most probably it's used some kind of add-in or a dynamo when it comes to Revit.
Yeah.
I understand. Thanks.
And if this is like if this is a vertical element, for example, shaft, so we have our own control area for shafts.
Okay.
So from zero to roof, there is only one control area.
One control area. Okay, got it. So it's separate for vertical.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes. Moving on. We discuss control areas. So now it's the responsibility. And as I mentioned, our project is not a lump sum contract. The design was not entirely ready when the first tendering began. Here on our project, the trade contracts are signed gradually with the progression of design works. So first excavation, then shell construction, facades, interior works, etc., etc. So we must give the contractor clear information about what they are responsible for ordering and mounting on site. especially that often the interface between two different disciplines are disputable. In most traditional projects, you probably know it, that site managers create responsibility matrices and draw system schemas to distribute responsibility in separate sheets. We decided to use objects properties to manage it. And each object in the whole project has a property value that assigns a responsibility to a specific tender contract. Usually, each discipline is a different contractor, and those are example numbers. Concrete works, facade, sanitary installation, ventilation, electrical installation, building automation, etc., etc. We have 140 such contracts on our project. Each one is a separate number.
And each one is assigned to a separate contractor, or any contractor can have like 2 or 3 contracts?
They can have 2 or 3 contracts, but the numbers are still different. If they win a few tendering, they can have one company can do more contracts, more work, but the numbers are still divided because we divide it before we know who wins the contract.
I understand. Okay.
And this helps the contractor also. They can filter the model by their property. I will show it later, how that it might look like. And together with numbering of control area, this improves quantity takeoffs because they can put 2 filters on control area, my contract number, and I know how it looks in the model, and I can do the quantity, the ITO. Next one are the status codes. So if we use the
Konrad, I apologize for interrupting,
Yeah.
just for our lovely audience, because it's dead silence. I hope that everything is clear. So if you guys have any questions to Konrad, just post in the question in the comment section in the chat. We will gather all the questions, and then at the end of the Q&A session, we will answer them. Okay, Konrad, thanks. Please carry on.
Yeah. So when we begin to use BIM models interdisciplinary, we need to establish communication rules. If I worked on my model for 1 week and made some changes, I would have to have a way to communicate to my colleague or somebody else what information from my model they can use as a background for their work. And this is the place where we use object statuses. In Norway, we use a process called MMI, Model Maturity Index. But for the international audience, it is very similar to the framework of level of development. These codes defines when object in a given control area should achieve specific development. And this is both in terms of its placing within a space, its geometry development, and properties. And within each design phase, we have defined what MMI status should be reached and what those numbers mean in detail. So here on the slide, you can see an example of data requirement developed according to the MMI code for a door object. So 100 is a schema design, the sketch, concept, ready for coordination, and construction documentation and as built. We see the progress of information. Afterwards, we use those codes to define in which phase what objects should reach what MMI value. So here you see a table that shows an example milestone, that in milestone 12, structural should reach MMI 350, architecture should be 350, and all the MEP designs can be 300, because we do the collision control against openings, if the openings are correct. And we define such milestone throughout the project and can create something like that. Such a swimming pool diagram where MMI statuses are placed together with the disciplines for each control area. In practice,
Just can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Apologize. I was just wondering, is there any kind of planning tool that you are using for? Because right now you are showing in, let's say, a spreadsheet. Is it some kind of a tool that you guys are using to plan, for example, coordination of each control area session? Is it I don't know, is set up in Primavera or I don't know any other planning tool, or you are using, I don't know, maybe Excel to plan the coordination activities?
So the scheduling is done in Safran project.
Okay.
I will also it will be shown on the software flow map.
Okay.
So this is like in general, but the design teams within themselves, I don't know what they are using. This is their internal workflows.
Okay. Thanks.
So in practice, status changes.
Also, we just received.
Yeah.
Sorry, is there any clash matrix also used in the project?
Yeah, yes, of course. It's just I didn't show it. I don't show it today.
Sure.
But
Okay.
of course, you have to know what clashes with what, and you have to provide this matrix. So responsible for changing those status codes are designers. As an example, we have here an interdisciplinary coordination in a week 22. And all the models have to have MMI 350. And this means that only those objects with MMI 350 are controlled by the BIM coordinator. He just filters out all the other objects and clash control the ones that has 350. So if somebody forgot about changing the status to 350, they will be excluded from the coordination from the scratch. And after implementing the remarks from the BIM coordination, the designers can change from 350 to 400, which means ready for construction. And also here is one important remark. The whole model doesn't have to be MMI 350 before the multidisciplinary coordination. We talked about control areas and we checked the model by control areas. So if we are checking first floor in building 81, we are interested only in the first floor of building 81, and the second, third, fourth, or whichever other building can have different status codes. That's why it's so important to use all those three properties together.
I would ask the question again about, the wall, for example, it goes through several control zones, and what status code it should have. For example, in one zone it might be in early phase, and on the other, I don't know, on the other control zone it might be in the more advanced phase.
That's why it's cut. That's why it's cut. And you cut this wall between two control areas. And you check only this element that is ready for control. That's why it's more work for the designers. That's true, but it's enhance all the other processes.
Okay, got it.
I just saw the question: what's the difference between MMI and LOD?
Yes,
it's pretty similar. I was actually doing some research and I found that they are used for the same purpose. There are some tweaks, like MMI is a little bit more focused on scheduling and more focused on planning the design schedule, whereas LOD might be a little bit more about the data and the geometry development. But all in all, they are pretty similar, and we in Norway just like to have our own classifications and standards. Even numbering is pretty much the same.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to technology.
We have 50 minutes went through, so we need to just start to rush a bit.
Okay, so I will jump through, or maybe not jump through, but I will
don't worry, faster. Step by step.
Okay. Okay, so technology. So we have to have software, and there is a lot of them. So we have to choose correct ones. And what to choose? This is always a challenge. And if the project as ours is pretty big one, it's like 470 IFC models that total weigh 35 gigabytes. A federated Solibri model weighs 3.2 gigabytes. And this is a lot. We push the software to their very limits. Just like that.
I need to admit, I'm working on one of the biggest models on our project. It's 1 giga, and as you said, it's 3.2 giga. And for me, 1 giga with my hardcore laptop, I'm still seeing some lagging. So 3.2, it might be. It's a huge model.
Yeah, but this is the model for every building and every discipline. So we had to split it. So we are using building by building. They are much smaller, but sometimes you have to check everything, like to count how many of something you have in a whole hospital.
Of course.
And this one takes ages to open. I will present here our technology map step by step. And we are well aware that this might not be the optimal option and optimal solutions, but the design of this project started in 2016. So it was some time ago. So the whole project began in the Rofus database. That is a hospital planning tool for room program and requirements. Then came designers and begin to work in Revit and Tekla. Every Friday, there is an automatic IFC export for all models. And during the weekend, every platform is fed with fresh models. Solibri is one of these platforms. So we federate all models in this software. In the design process, we use it for quality assurance and clash control. And this is both internally within the design team and for the communication with the building owner or contractors. And for issue management internally, the design team uses BCF server called BIMtrack.
Now, it's called actually now
New Forma Connect, right? It was pretty recent change I've seen. And then next, for issue management outside of the design team, we use PIMS platform. And this is the project main hub, and every project stakeholder is contractually bound to use this software. So this is our main tool to collaborate and store data. This is our CDE. This is our issue management platform. And it's basically an enormous database with different modules that can be cross-referenced. And from PIMS, IFC files are sent to StreamBeam, which is our field BIM solution. And this is preferred software to be used on mobile devices on site by the workers. Schedules are made in Saffron project, which are also combined with data in PIMS into single activities in web registered, available for site managers and foremen. We combine IFC models with schedules in Synchro for schedule visualizations, so-called 4D BIM. This is pretty impressive technology map. Does it work seamlessly? Well, we talked about it a little bit. It doesn't. No software is perfect, and you probably know it. And for the big projects, I would say that no software is good enough. We have performance issues, we encounter data losses. We try to automate whatever we can, but sometimes the software just don't want to talk to one another. So we are using some workarounds, scripts, half-automated processes trying to scale up the usage of the software. And this would conclude kind of theoretical maybe introduction. I have now two quick use cases. Should we do some questions now, or should I show the use cases and then we do the questions? What do you prefer?
We can. I think there are some questions. There are some questions, but we could actually see the use cases. People are saying that the session is insightful, so we can go through the insights. The use cases, and afterwards we will jump straight to Q&A session. I'm just gathering the questions. So, and I see Urmas is saying about use cases. So let's do it.
Okay. Okay. So first one is creating gatekeeper validation rule sets. This is I will show you how to create a rule set that uses a gatekeeper condition, and I use this rule to check the data within the control area. So as a prerequisite for this rule set, you have to have a model of control areas. This is what we talked before, a mass model that have a size and shape of each control area with the correct number of this control area. Second prerequisite is a property set in your model that is connected to that control area. And in my case, we call it in our project SHN underscore control. And the third one, defined which control area you want to check. And the logic behind this check is we want to check if there is any object that resides inside the specific control area mass object. Let's call it 220201, and does not have this value written inside the control area property. The result of this check is the list of objects that are incorrectly coded or not coded at all. So what we do? We go to rule set manager in Solibri, and in libraries we search for the rule Sol15 general intersection rule. And inside the parameters window, we define components 1 and 2. Component 1 is a control area mass object. Maybe I have some pointer here. Yeah, I have a pointer. So it includes all objects in the model with a property value SHN control. Actually, it's 210201. And we exclude this. There's actually a typo here. It should be 22 instead of 21 because I see the model as 22. And we exclude any other model that is not a control area model. As a result of this filter, we are receiving 220201 control area polygon and we check the objects inside it. So this is, and the component 2 are every component that might be a potential issue. We include any model with property set, property control. That is not 220201 because we don't want to check the correct objects. And we exclude the control area mass model from the check. And we exclude furniture and openings, and
which are not relevant. Yeah,
exactly. So we're excluding all the irrelevant components. Yeah, and that is all. For this step, we click on the save button, and we can go to the step 2.
So basically, I'm not sure if you are going to describe, but the gatekeeper 2 is more or less a filter tool.
I will go for that in the next step, because first we create the rules for the check inside, and the step 2 is to create a rule to check objects that passed step 1.
Exactly.
We implement a gatekeeper feature, and the feature is, as the name suggests, keeps specified model objects outside of the rule checking machinery. So I create here a gatekeeper, and I choose here check only past components. And the gatekeeping value is the value of the control area in each object. I set it to the check only pass components, and those that didn't pass are taken care of in the step 1. And step 3, we load rule set in a Solibri drum and start rule checking and awaits for the results. And afterwards, I still have to go manually through the results, because Solibri spits out way too many errors. So we have to narrow down only to the correct ones.
So there is also a bit of manual job to go through the results from Solibri and take through those that are real issues.
Absolutely. It's you can half automate this process, but in the end, a human has to look through it, because Solibri can spit out a lot of issues that are either duplicates of the issue that was already found, or it's irrelevant or whatever else.
Got it. I have a similar experience, so I was just wondering how it is in your case.
Yeah, we cannot automate it. We still have a job.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is just filtering after properties. You see here on the video how we structured the whole building for the properties, how we assigned them to the contract. And this helps each tender contract to filter out models for their contract and check for feasibility as well. Received very fast and pretty good quantity estimations. And what else? You can a contractor can create an ITO filter using this classification code, those classifications we created in Solibri, to further narrow down the results. How to do it?
ITO, just for clarification,
information takeoff.
Is information takeoff.
Yeah, sorry. So you go to the information takeoff tab in the Solibri. You click on a gear wheel, as here, yeah. Then you have in the next window, you click on add row. Then you make filtering choices in the new row, include any object. You click on 3 dots to specify whether there has to be specific property or the classification we desire, and you write in the value. You can use, as I used here, a wildcard, the asterisk. It widens the choice. So here it gives me all the objects for the first floor in the building 71. And if I would have written here a number, it would give me only one control area on that floor.
Okay, but so the asterisk is a wildcard in the Solibri which says any, which actually we can put any kind of symbol instead of this asterisk. Yeah, exactly.
And how many we want. If you want to use only one symbol, you use a question mark.
Okay.
Then we can choose classification. So these classifications we created here, we can use in the filtering options here. And click on OK, and this is the result.
So right now we are seeing, could you give me just a brief, right now we are seeing the
one contract.
One contract.
Plumbing contract 3207. That is
that goes through several control areas.
Yeah, that goes through the first floor of the 2 control areas.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yep. That would be it.
Okay. That was interesting. Thank you so much, Konrad, for this presentation. We've gathered a lot of questions, so we are going to start a Q&A session just in a few moments. But if you could just show us, you prepared something for our audience, isn't it?
Yep. After this workshop, you will receive some short tips and tricks documents from what I've shown you now. Few quick tips on how to implement and how to, for example, create classifications on what. So this is one of the tips you see already here, but there is more. Such documents you can receive.
Yeah, I will send it tomorrow via mail to all registered people. Very good. So right now we can go to Q&A session. I've gathered a few questions, so I think we are ready. Just give me a sec. So there are a few questions. Some of them are from longer, some of them are not. Okay. The first question from Urmas: why you guys in the project implement your own codification standard?
This is not. We used our own called kind of module maturity index. MMI, which is model maturity index, is a standard for the whole Norway, for whole Norwegian market.
I think Urmas meant about like codification TFM codes, which you showed, like the long ones. So maybe you can just explain.
Yeah, this long code string is TFM, and is also Norwegian classification standard for. It's called. How you translate it to English? Like multi. I lost my English.
Don't worry.
This is for coding every discipline object. It works similar
construction
as
codification. It's like Uniclass, but it's a Norwegian one.
So this is not like only for the project; it's for the whole Norway.
Exactly. Okay. Question for later: how are the contracts being set up in terms of responsibilities between designer and contractors during construction? This is a question from Astana.
How are the contracts being set up in terms of responsibilities? The contracts themselves is actually not my responsibility to see what is written there and what are the prerequisites. So I cannot actually answer to that
Mhm.
question. I'm just a technical guy, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I see from the chat that there are a lot of questions related to different things. Like, for example, the prices. How many? What price was the for the licensing? Most probably, Konrad, you don't know this, the answer to the question. But I will try to. Okay, we have another question. How you manage that all design contractors interprets MMI in the same way?
So the table I've shown you is an attachment to the contract. So all the property lists and all the status codes we use in the project, it's all attached in the contract. And actually every contractor, when they are coming on site, they have a training from how do we use this digital collaboration on our project. So I was one of them giving one of those people giving them the trainings how to use it, or my colleagues. We teach them what are our project specifics.
Okay. Mats is asking, what happens when a consultant doesn't deliver the correct MMI, and also if the delivery is not on time? I'm thinking about like contractual fines, those type of things.
Yeah, the contractual fines is also a little bit something out of my responsibility. But what I'm doing when I'm controlling it, I know how many objects. Solibri gives me that result of how many objects which in with which discipline are not ready in that control area, and I send it as a BCF file as an issue.
Mm.
So, dear architect or dear MEP electrical designer, these are the objects that are not coded, and up until now they have, for example, MMI 300, and up until now they should have 350 or 400. So please correct them.
Mhm.
So this is the check I do also.
Okay. Paula is asking about how, Conrad, so you don't recommend using Solibri Autorun to create Solibri slides? Because you meant about the manual job that we as a BIM coordinators we need to do. Is it better to add them manually or for more control?
I mean, on the contrary, I recommend Outrun very much. And this gatekeeper rule I've shown you, I have implemented in Outrun. So Solibri creates slides for me, but then I go through them and I just delete or mark as irrelevant. I just sort them out, which are irrelevant, which are correct, etc., etc. So
So
I
you mix
do.
both methods.
Yeah. You cannot automate. I mean, Autorun is great, but it can give you whatever results. It's usually gave me like 1,000 errors, and after filtering, I narrowed it down to like 200 that are mattered, for example.
Mhm. I
So
understand.
you cannot base brainlessly just rely on Autorun.
Mhm. Torgeir is asking, do you have okay, from the software flow, do you have issue management in both PIMS and also in BIM track? Because in your workflow, software workflow, you said that, okay, we are using issue management for in BIM track as a BCF server and also in PIMS. So could you clarify this?
The,
This is
the BIM track is for the design team internally.
Mhm.
So like strength, architectural, MEP, etc. Internally, they're using BIM track, and the PIMS are our contractual software to use outside of the design. So with a building owner, with us, with
so
a contractor, we export BCF to and put it on PIMS.
Okay, okay. So because, for example, I was using PIMS on other project, and we actually used PIMS as a issue management, but issues related not specifically to the model, but for example to the contractual things. Like, for example, could you clarify something in in the document, or
Yeah.
just for sending tasks to several people?
Yeah, it's the same. So we use Teams also for that, but also if I do, because I do the data validation very late in the process. I mean, I'm one of the last people that is doing data validation, so I'm not involved in the design process. So I'm not using BIM track. I'm putting those issues on Teams because I'm not at design. I'm not in the design team. I'm on the building owner side.
Gotcha. There was a question which is quite relevant, I think, and quite on quite. Is
On
there
that.
any IDS validation?
We don't do IDS. The IDS came pretty much recently, and I think it's still a demo in Solibri, and we are well finished with the
Exactly.
design process. So the IDS were not in place when we were doing the most of the design.
Okay. Afraim, how do you filter out objects from contract coding, and who add the contract code? Is it the designer who gives the information to the designer?
Yeah, this is the designer that gives the contract code, and and this is the joint work between the procurement team that specified how do we divide the project into responsibilities. They gave the numbers, named the contracts, and sent it to designers. So, for example, I don't know, sprinklers installation, their number is 3301. I don't remember. Electrical installation is 4000, whatever. So the designer knows what is sprinkler themselves best. So they know which number goes to sprinklers and which one goes to interior walls and which one goes to concrete, etc.
The question that I wanted also to ask, did cutting elements on borders of control areas cause some issues when it comes to MEP calculations, for example? So we are cutting pipes or systems into two separate objects, and calculations, so MEP calculations like flow calculation might be included in the system. I'm not sure if you know about it, since this is not your area of expertise, but maybe you've heard.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm not an MEP designer. I don't know how did they solve it. Maybe probably they first calculated the flows and then cut it just before the delivery. It's hard for me to say.
Yeah. Okay. There is question from Brian. How do you superintendents and foremen manage the BIM data they use to build the project without drawings? So actually, you haven't showed the example. How the drawings, or not the drawings, but the BIM data is used on the construction site. Maybe you could give us some insights.
Yeah, more about the how to use the model on the without the drawings, like on the construction side. I will tell on the build conference, which is in May in Riga. So if anybody is interested, I will provide more information on the other side. Here I focused, since most of the Ignacio, your audience are designers, so I focused more on the data side.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, manage the.
Basically, basically, as far as I remember, you guys use the tablets and also StreamBeam software.
We use the StreamBeam software that is, it's viewing the models, and you can pretty easily manipulate it on a handheld device. And it depends. Yeah, manage data. They also have the access to Solibri Anywhere. So it depends what do they want to do, and manage the BIM data. It's a broad spectrum. It depends on what do they need to do. So if a foreman has to create a work package for the workers on site, he would be probably using Streambeam with creating some issues, some slides, and sending to the workers. Whereas if they are doing quantity surveying, then the Solibri probably is the best tool to use.
Also, what I would recommend for you, Brian, and all the people who are interested in this topic, there are a few articles about Streambeam, about BIM kiosk, so BIM
Stations.
stations on the construction side. You wrote, I think, both those articles. So just go to bimcorner.com, filter through Konrad's articles, and I think you will find some good stuff there as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Miguel is asking, how did you handle detectors of drawing class detractors?
Detractors.
Detractors, big challenge currently on the other countries who still highly depend on drawings. So people who lag in implementation of new
Implementation.
technology. Mhm. Did you
This
had
is
some kind of experience with it?
of course it happens. Like when we started it was pretty a novum, but it all goes with a collaboration. So it is between the site manager and the contractor, giving training. So we're trying to do our best to actually show that using the model gives much more information than just the drawings. And this is also written in contracts that we don't provide drawings.
Okay. Thanks. Let me see also another question from Miguel. Why did you use Solibri and BIM Track instead of BIM Collab as one integrated model checking and validation plus online BCF issue management platform with online 3D viewer? Actually,
We
actually,
answered a little bit on that. I mean, Beam Track is the same as Beam Collab. I mean, they are not the same, but
it works the same in the
it
same way.
works. Yeah.
Also, BIM Track has the 3D online viewer as well. So and it was most probably the contractual issue, or like what the software was chosen during the contractual phase. So
Yeah.
maybe there was a price issue related to it.
I don't know.
We have a few questions more. Dr. BIM, what is the minimum size required for modeling the MEP elements? For example, conduit's diameter 53 meter plus must be model or junction box. So most probably, because often I get the question like, are you going to model all the elements in your trade? Like if
Aha.
the,
Okay. This is.
if the pipes are, for example, super small, is it necessary to model them? I think that the big
Yeah.
Dr. Beam meant that.
Okay, so I don't know the exact site. Sorry, I don't have it in mind. But we don't model like every little detail. We don't create kind of production drawing that you can production models that you can just send to prefabrication sites and receive all models, all elements prefabricated. This is kind of working drawing. So the small elements are not there. But I don't know the exact
Requirements.
requirements. So we don't model the electrical cables, for example.
Why not uniform at start and use but MMIs? Is there any challenges to adopt?
Why not
Thank you.
OmniClass? It's just what we use in Norway.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, Uniformat. It's something different than LOD or MMI. So
Like uniformat is
it,
like the classification.
yeah. So
It's like
we're using
so there are
TFMs.
two different concepts actually. So we are using TFMs. TFM is Tverrfaglig Merke System,
Merke system, which is
which is like codification system, building codification system used in Norway. That's why. Uniformat is used mostly in the United States, as far as I remember.
interdisciplinary marking system.
I said by colors. I'm just a question about the AI. Maybe you know the answer. My question: how effective AI can be embedded into the BIM model for clash detection?
I
Us.
haven't heard.
Not.
Is there any AI added to Solibri? I haven't heard about.
I haven't heard about anything like this, and I hope it's not because I will lose my job.
Now that we learn how to do the prompts.
Exactly, exactly. Maybe it will makes the process effective. Okay, we have several more. I saw the you coded disciplines by color. There was some rules created, or you used some kind of standard. Which one?
I think Solibri colors it by when you do
By default.
information takeoff. Solibri can color the disciplines by the colors,
Mhm.
and it just do it.
Okay. Andre is asking. You say you don't model everything. Is reinforcement modeled?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Give me a sec, just two or three more because we have still a few. Is this mainly for internal work, or do you have the same work structure for design and construction, for grounding, foundation, framework? Do you use the same control zones for this work?
Oh,
So,
okay. So this is something I touched on, that we differentiate the control areas for or control zones by the type of work. The shell construction, it's all one, and foundation and framework, it's just at different levels, right? Foundation is on the minus level and the framework goes up. So we use one control area type
mhm.
for all the shell construction, and the other type with a little bit different number for interior works.
Okay. I get a very nice comment from one of the viewers. Man, you've worked hard without relax about the month. Thank you so much. I have wrinkles on all my head, so thanks so much for seeing it.
People care
Okay,
about you, see?
yeah. I'm very glad. Thank you so much. How many beam? Okay, this will be the last question from Torguy. How many beam resources there are there in a project like this? I think he meant like beam kiosks, those type of things.
Or people.
Or people. So
Because
maybe you know the
maybe we
answer
can
for
answer
both.
both. In the building owner team, there is three of us being digital collaboration coordinators slash, because we're not kind of being coordinators only.
Mhm.
So there's three of us from the building owner team or construction management team, and
Mhm.
then each designing company, they have their own beam resources that I don't even know the count of. I don't remember. So, but they every discipline have their own beam discipline leader, beam coordinator, etc., etc. So how it.
Maybe
Mhm.
maybe it will be a good topic for the next session, Konrad.
Might
Just to
be.
showing us like the organization and how different roles and the different people work with each other and what are the division of
Mhm.
the different roles. I hope
Yeah,
so.
how people collaborate
Exactly,
together. That
exactly.
is an interesting thing.
Okay, it was the last question. Thank you so much. Thank you, our lovely audience, for being with us today. Thank you, Konrad, for this interesting presentation. Congratulations on being qualified to build. I hope that you will like the event and you will crush it. I'm
Thank you.
100% sure. Thank you so much. Hans is saying thanks. I see a lot of good, positive reactions about the presentation, Konrad. So
Thank you. Thank you
Congratulations
very much.
from hot Brazil. Very good, very good. Thank you so much for being with us for almost 1.5 hours. It was pleasure, and I hope to see you in the next BIM coordination session. Once again, thanks so much, Konrad, and
Yep.
we are in touch.
Thank you
See
very
you
much.
later, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.